Morning, convening the 8:30 a.m. hearing on the Committee on Transportation today, Thursday, March 19, 2026, at the Hawaii State Capitol in Conference Room 430. Thank you, folks, and apologize for the delayed start this morning. We have several measures before us for consideration, and I'd like to start with the first measure, SB 2697 SD1, related to transportation. Prohibits vehicles from driving on the shoulder of a roadway except in circumstances, authorizes the Department of Transportation and county police departments to impound or cause to tow vehicles with expired registrations to 3 or more years after verifying vehicle's registration status, allows the owner of an impounded or towed vehicle to recover the vehicle under certain conditions, exempts an owner of an impounded or towed vehicle from the liability of towing or storage charges if it was improperly impounded or towed, allows the owner of an impound or towed vehicle to recover the vehicle without payment upon presenting the vehicle's current registration to the towing company, requires the towing company to allow vehicle owner to enter the vehicle to obtain the vehicle's current registration, requires an annual report to the legislature, increases the fine for owners of out-of-state motor vehicles who fail to register the vehicle in the state, establishes minimum and maximum statutory penalties for violations relating to the use of high occupancy vehicle lanes, effective 8/1/2027. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Morning, Chair. This is Larry Dill, Hawaii Department of Transportation. We stand on our supportive testimony as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services with comments and one individual with comments. Anyone in person or online wishing to testify on SB 2697 SD1? Seeing none.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, let's move on to our next agenda item before us, SB 2399 SD2, relating to general excise tax exemption for aircraft maintenance, provides a general excise tax exemption for the sale of material, parts, or tools used for aircraft service and maintenance for the construction of an aircraft service and maintenance facility, effective 7/1/2050. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Taxation with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair Garrison Kurth with the Department of Taxation. We'll stand on our written testimony, providing comments, and here if you have questions.
Thank you. Kohala Coast Resort Association in support. Tax Foundation of Hawaii with comments.
Aloha, the Tax Foundation of Hawaii stands on its comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Alaska Airlines and Hawaiian Airlines in support.
Not present.
Not present. Chamber of Commerce Hawaii in support.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, Julian Kiawa, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, Hawaii, stands.
Thank you. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2399 SD2? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, let's move on to our next agenda item before us, SB 2665 SD2, relating to renewal of driver's licenses. Requires applicants for driver's license renewal who have received a moving violation within the previous 5 years to complete an educational course that includes a road safety video developed by the Department of Transportation and a written road safety examination, effective 7/1/2027. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Aloha, Chair. DOT stands on its written testimony and support as submitted.
Thank you. Office of the Public Defender in opposition.
And good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is William Bento and I'm representing the Office of the Public Defender. Our office does oppose the bill, not because we don't believe that there's an issue with safety on our roadway, but just that looking at the language of the bill, we don't really see that there's a strong correlation between what would be required under the bill and what it's hoping to achieve, which is safety on our highways. The fact that you are able to study for an exam and memorize the answers to questions doesn't necessarily translate to driving with aloha on the road and thinking about being safe with other people. That's our real concern, is how do we change people's attitudes towards trying to be safe and caring about themselves and the safety of other people on the roads. Personally, I've been working at this job for, this year will be 39 years. I've lived in Mililani and now in Eva Beach, so I drive on the highway every single day, morning and afternoon. And I see, the need for us to change people's attitudes, motorcycles driving in between traffic at a high speed, people going in and out. And when the road is open, people speeding. So how do we change that attitude? That's the real important thing. And I do think education is one of the ways. We would not oppose, when you go to renew your license, that you have to sit down for 5 or 10 minutes and watch a video and be educated. Let people come and give their testimony on the video about how somebody's accident has caused them pain and suffering in their family. But more importantly, people who may have had an accident, what did they learn from that? What did they have to go through? Those types of testimonies are the most powerful. The other thing perhaps is that maybe we could consider giving positive reinforcement to people with good driving records. Maybe they could, you have 1 year, no tickets, maybe you get to use the zipper lane for a week. Maybe you can get a discount on your car registration. We've all seen the increase in prices. My daughter just texted me this morning, she paid $5 a gallon for gas at the service station this morning. Maybe we give somebody one free fill up on a gas card if they continue to have a good driving record. But we do share the concerns. It's just that we don't see how there's a correlation between taking a written exam and driving safe. So that's our reason for the opposition, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Bento.
Attorney General's office with comments.
Hi, good morning, Chair Kila, Vice Chair Miyake, committee members. Michael Moriyama, Deputy Attorney General. The purpose of this bill is to require applicants who are renewing their driver's licenses to complete an additional educational course if an applicant received a traffic citation involving the operation of a motor vehicle within a prior 5 years. State traffic laws, for what we informally call moving violations, are based on the operation of a motor vehicle and not specifically whether a vehicle was moving at the time the violation was committed. Under current state traffic laws, the operation of a motor vehicle is broadly construed to include moving violations, as well as apply to an intoxicated driver illegally stopped in the middle of a public roadway who passed out while waiting for a traffic light to change, whose vehicle was not moving. The department recommends that the term moving violation that appears on page 1, line 8, be replaced with traffic citation for a violation of state traffic law or county traffic ordinance involving the operation of a motor vehicle. Consistent with replacing the term moving violation on page 1, the department recommends deleting lines 4 through 9 on page 3 entirely. And then I'd also like to apologize. There are 2 mistakes in my written testimony. For clause 2 on page 2 of my written testimony, the words "the applicant" should have been included before "completes," and the word "and" should be an "and" without the "d." So the last phrase in clause 2 should read, "The applicant completes an educational course that includes." And again, I apologize for my mistake. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services with comments. And 1 individual in support. Anyone in person or online wishing to testify on SB 2665 SD2? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item, SB 2851 SD1, relating to deaf individuals, authorizes deaf motor vehicle owners to register the vehicle as being owned by a deaf individual so that the deafness designation appears when a law enforcement officer accesses the motor vehicle's information. Effective January 1st, 2027. Vice Chair for testimony.
Disability and Communication Access Board in support. Not present. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services with comments. PL Fritz, individual in support on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Peter Fritz. I'm an attorney, a former member of the Disability and Communication Access Board, and I support this bill. I recommended 2 amendments before when I appeared before this committee on the House bill. The first is an amendment to lower the threshold to 41 decibels, which is consistent with the bill that I presented to the Deafblind Task Force when this bill was drafted. The second amendment allows deafness to be verified by tax forms, income tax filings of sensitive documents, verification by a physician is the appropriate standard. This committee removed the income tax provision from HB 1993, and I asked for the same amendment here. The implementation concerns raised by the City and County of Honolulu were addressed in my written testimony. The committee resolved those concerns in HB 1993 by inserting a flexible start date. And my request is that the committee amend this bill to align it with the amendments that this committee adopted for HB 1993 HD1 on February 12th, 2026. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We also received 3 testimony and support from 3 individuals. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2851 SD1? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, SB 3102 SD2 relating to port pilotage clarifies the consulting role and responsibilities of the Department of Transportation and the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs Development and implementation of port pilot licensure standards, requirements, and criteria. Repeals Port Allen for the list of designated port pilotage waters effective 7/1/2050. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, thank you so much for hearing this measure. I'm Joy Kalili, Deputy Director of Transportation for Harbors. We stand on our written testimony in strong support. Available for questions.
Thank you. DCCA Port Pilot Program in support.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Danny Chow, Program Specialist for DCCA, and the department stands in full support of this measure and available for any questions.
Thank you. Maritime Group in support. Hawaii Pilots Association in support.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Thank you for having us. Sinclair Brown with Hawaii Pilots Association, the Harbor Pilots, and we stand on our written testimony as submitted and here to answer any questions. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Matson Navigation in support. Hawaii Harbors Users Group in support. Hawaii State AFL-CIO in support. And Young Brothers in support. Anyone in person or online wishing to testify on SB 3102 SD2? Seeing none.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'd like to move on to our next agenda item before us, SB 2521 SD1. Relating to emergency services, exempts emergency medical services personnel from commercial driver's license requirements, requires federal, state, and county firefighters, emergency medical service personnel, and law enforcement officers to maintain proof that they have successfully completed agency approved or state approved training on authorized emergency vehicles, amends the definition of authorized emergency vehicle under state traffic code to replace ambulances with emergency medical service vehicles, expands the definition of authorized emergency vehicle to include disaster response and recovery vehicles and Department of Health vehicles. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Larry Dill for the DOT. We stand in support on our testimony as submitted.
Thank you. Hawaii State Department of Health in support. Present. City and County of Honolulu Emergency Services Department in support.
Chair, Vice Chair, again, thank you for the opportunity. We stand in support of our testimony.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu Department of Human Services, Human Resources in support. And UPW in support. Anyone in person or online wishing to testify on SB 2521 SD1? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, our last agenda item today, SB 3157, related to transportation, requires unencumbered and unexpended revenues from the Automated Speed Enforcement Systems Program Special Fund in excess of $12 million as of June 30 of each year to lapse to the general fund. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, and Larry Dill for the DOT, we stand in support on our testimony as submitted.
Thank you. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 3157? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Larry, I have a question.
Yes, Chair?
How comfortable are you taking questions about this, the camera safety program?
Somewhat.
Okay. So from my understanding, when the program was stood up and authorized, it was under the intent to be self-contained for the purpose of operation and maintenance and whatnot. But to the point, right, to author this is under the guise that we would not be expending any money. But from my vision of once the program was to be fully stood up, I don't ever foresee us ever lapsing money into the fund at all. So is that a correct perception or understanding of the program?
I agree. We do not envision any funds would be lapsed.
I'm sorry, lapsed into the general fund.
Correct. Yes, we do not envision lapsing any funds back into the general fund.
No, but that's what the bill is asking us to do, that should the special fund ceiling exceed 12 million and everything is encumbered or spent, anything more would go to the general fund. Right, I understand the concept what you folks are trying to do, but I did watch this play out in the Senate. And I think that there was some concerns raised by a member of the Senate. And thus in turn, other folks.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Chair, I was not in attendance at that hearing with the Senate, so I cannot speak to that specifically.
No.
But it is our intent to utilize these funds such that there would be no excess funds to lapse back into the general fund.
Okay. I think maybe I'll continue this discussion on this measure with Director and Deputy Highways. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing the members, let's take a recess. reconvening our 8:30 AM committee hearing here for the Committee on Transportation. Members, for the measures before us, I'd like to start with SB 2697 relating to transportation. So this was a companion measure, and I wanna thank Senator Inouye. I just wanna give context that the House Transportation Committee Chair and the Senate Transportation Committee Chair, we've had really great, robust discussion so far, and I really wanna thank Senator Inouye for her openness and willingness of moving both Senate measures over to us and now also hearing a bunch of different House measures. I appreciate her collaboration that she's been doing. So this is one of those bills that we collaborated on. So previously, members, we heard a House version like this. The Senate vehicle is the vehicle decided to be moving. So for the purposes of this measure, I'd like to adopt the HD one for SB 2697. First, I want to pull language from House Bill 2027, House Draft 1 in its current form of language, so it's similarly what we passed out. So for consistency, making sure that we have the same measure in the bill. And for the purpose of carrying out the towing enforcement as set forth in this law or proposed law, I wanna make clear that they shall be exempt from HRS 29011, Section B, Paragraph 2. Technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, defecting the effective date. And that's my recommendations. Members, questions, comments, concerns? You know, I probably did. Sorry, I'm slipping up on my, everything is just technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Thank you, Rep. Okay, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2697 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendment. Chair and Vice Chair votes aye. Representative Evans? Aye. Representative Grandinetti?
Aye.
Representative Kitagawa is excused. Representative Lachika?
Aye.
Representative Cochran?
Aye.
Representative Maralka?
Aye.
Representative Perry? The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2399 SD2, for this one, I'd like to just adopt the House Draft 1 for technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, affecting the effective date. And members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2399 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendment. Noting Rep. Kitagawa's excusal for the remaining of this hearing. Any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2665 SD2 relating to renewal of driver's license. This has been, I think, a robust discussion that we've had around traffic safety this session, and several measures were drafted in response, I think, to folks trying to look for different ways. I know the department has authored a similar measure, myself as well, Senator Alfonte. I just wanna thank everybody for just looking at different ways we can redo some of these things. I wanna acknowledge I envy the position of the public defender, as they often are before our committee in opposition to a lot of things, but I think some of it does have merit, and I know what they are looking out for. But I would respond in the sense that we also have a large, vast majority of people who do follow the law and trying to get to their destination safely. So for this one, we're gonna adopt the HD one to move this measure forward. I'm gonna do technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. I wanna note in the committee report, the Honolulu County requested effective date, which pretty much is a 1-year delayed effectiveness should, whenever the act become law. And I want to adopt the Attorney General's recommended amendments for clarity as well, but I was gonna pull it from the submitted testimony, but as they shared when they were testifying that there was an error, so I just wanna read it just to make clear that amending section 286-107E to HRS on page 1, lines 8 through 11 to read as follow. If the applicant has received a traffic citation for a violation of a state traffic law or county traffic ordinance involving the operation of a motor vehicle within the previous 5 years from the date that the applicant files for renewal, the applicant completes an educational course that includes, and then the following. And just clarifying the effective date, take amendment. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
Chair,
Uh,
I like the bill, I like the intent of it. My concern and even reservations because of the fact that our county can't handle the current load they have right now. Even if you make a pathetic attempt at making an appointment through a long queue, you still show up at your appointment time, and 9 times out of 10 have to wait 2 or 3 more additional hours because for some reason they're backlogged. This would make it extremely hard on people who may have gotten a 10-mile-an-hour over the speed limit ticket. That doesn't mean they're a bad person, it doesn't mean they don't know how to drive, it just means, they were probably keeping up with traffic and slipped up. And for them to have to take a whole day off of work to go redo their license when that thing comes up, would add additional hardships on an already struggling economy people, so I'm reservations for that.
You know, I maybe, sorry, this is on the fly. Let's increase the threshold to 2 traffic citations instead of just 1.
If you do that, I'm a yes.
I can understand your concern and cause at that point, right, 1 could be an accident or your first lesson, but what is the word? First time is shame on me, second time is shame on you. Yeah, so I think for the discussion of this one, let's increase the threshold to be 2 violations in a period of 5 years.
And if you do that, then I'm a yes.
Yeah. No, I think that there's merit to that. I also just wanna respond in the sense that I also wanna add that Honolulu County did pass a resolution before we went into session this year, asking us to revisit this, so to your point, I don't know if they also consulted with their customer services, but that's neither here or there. Okay, with that, the only change then, I will increase the threshold to be two citations for the purpose of triggering the renewal. Members, any further questions, comments, concerns?
No, I appreciate that, Chair.
I think it's a
Yeah.
fair compromise. And I'm willing to, right, I think that, to your point, 1 is an accident, 2 is intentional. Okay, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2665 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2851 SD1 relating to deaf individuals. I'd like to adopt HD1. We've heard this measure in another form in the other committee. We heard another House bill like this in this committee. It has crossed over. I think they are trying to accomplish the same thing. So first I wanna start off and just thank the testimony from Peter Fritz. I do want to note your testimony in the committee report for the next committee to consider. I as subject matter in the sense of carrying out the judicial part of what should set forth, I think they would be more equipped to maybe take on that, because I do wanna adopt DCAP's testimony for the purpose of this measure. And I appreciate you, Mr. Fritz, for being engaged with the committee on that. I wanna also note in the committee report, Honolulu's requested effective date should this become law. On page 2, lines 15 to 21, we're gonna set the language relating to the impairment of deafness as its own subsection for the purpose of this bill. And we will do tech amendments or clarity consisting style. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2851 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next measure, SB 3102 SD2 relating to pork mileage. Adopt the HD1. There was also, we've heard this previously, but I believe both admin bills are moving to continue discussion. Members, HD1, tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and we will defect the effective date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 3102 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2521 SD1 relating to emergency services. I'd like to adopt the House Draft 1 for this measure. For technical amendments and for clarity, consistency, and style, the effective date, and I wanna thank the county for continuing to try to find a way to make sure they can keep our employees on the road safely. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2521 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Last agenda item, SB 3157 relating to transportation. I'd like to adopt the House Draft 1 for this measure. On its effective date, technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, increase the threshold from $12 million to $25 million, and also insert language into this measure that the department may assess the procurement of the operator for the measure of the safety program. And every 5 years, the department shall reissue procurement for the safety traffic program. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Sorry.
So the 12 million, you're bumping it to 25, you just said?
Yes,
And these funds should not be, if not used, will lapse back into the general fund. Is that what's?
that's I think what the bill is trying to accomplish, but I think really my line of questioning is that I think it's advantageous to assume that we will ever get to that position, because I think in its full enactment, I don't ever actually see. Right now we're running only on the pilot of 10 cameras, but I think when DOT did their studies, there are over 200 intersections alone that quantify for the installation of these. And the money in the special fund, from my understanding, is to operate, maintain, and the equipment for the operation. So
It'll get spent down.
I don't ever see, it's an interesting case should we ever lapse funds, but I don't want the ceiling to be that low. I think 25 million is fair, and I continue the discussion on the measure.
Chair, if I
Yes.
may, wanna try and abuse your kind-heartedness this morning. I should have said this earlier, but instead of the general fund, any cap or any excess lapse, going back to the general fund, can we possibly put this into the Safe Routes to School fund? Because this is actually a transportation fine, it happens on the roads fine. So going into the special fund just doesn't make any sense, you know how I feel about that fund. But if we can have it work towards making our routes to school and our crosswalks and stuff like that safer, I'd feel at least a little bit better.
I think legally, we cannot special fund transfer to another special fund. It always has to do a pass through if you're gonna reappropriate from special to general, then general to special. But to your point, I think this warrants a discussion largely as we revisit the cameras on the purposes of, I wanna say revenue generation, that we should probably explore that as a deeded way for continued funding for the expenditures of Safe Routes to School. So for this one, I'm not going to put that in, but I think when we continue the discussion next session, I think it is warranted.
Alright.
Yeah. Members, any further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 3157, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Our next hearing will be Tuesday. It'll be kind of long, but I thank you guys again for your willingness to continue being engaged with the committee.
8:30, or do you have a time?
I will, it might be 8:30, it might be 9.
Okay,
But
we'll wait till.
I apologize for getting you booked.
No worries, thank you.
Thank you folks, have a great day.
Alright, thank you.
Roger.